This episode is sponsored by Omni Consumer Products. We've got the future under control. One of the photography fads I have indulged in has been mist filters. Mist filters introduce blooming, or diffusion of light, or as the term halation implies, the appearance of halos around light sources. Halation is something our eyes experience in real life when looking at light sources, especially in sunny reflections and at night with city lights. They are present in a lot of older movies, especially shot on film, making halation synonymous with cinematic or filmic images to a certain extent. CineStill 800T is a film stock popular for its orange halation, especially at night. I was disappointed to find that this effect was very hard to replicate in modern digital images. I did find that some legacy, less corrected glass does produce more halation, giving this vintage character. One such lens for me has been the Nikon 50mm f1.8e pancake lens. But getting that effect regardless of attached optic has been a challenge. It can be recreated in post, and one could argue it's more flexible that way because it can be added non-destructively, but for others, getting it directly in camera can be more desirable, even more so for video. Here is where mist filters come into the equation. Mist filters have speckles, or otherwise particles, on the glass. The density of the speckles defines the filter strength. Note that the diffusion effect does not come for free, as you are inserting an additional glass element, and one that is not homogeneous at that, the image quality will take a hit. The exposure may also darken slightly, forcing you to compensate using the exposure triangle. But depending on your use case, taking the edge of some clinically sharp lenses might be exactly what you want, especially for portraiture. Tiffen is a US-based company founded in 1945, known for their optical filters. Initially, their products were hard to find in Europe, but they have become increasingly more available. I have bought their filters in various sizes, but as with all filters, it makes sense to buy them in larger diameter and then adapt them to your lenses using step-up rings. I'm using step-up rings from Kiwi, Polar Pro, and KNF. I recommend the Polar Pro as they are knurled and thus provide better friction when rotating. In this video, we will be checking out the Tiffen Pro Mist series at 82mm. Specifically, we will be checking out the 1/4, the half, full strength, 2x and 4x. As you can see, I skipped 1/8 because 1/8 is for losers.
Dick, I'm very disappointed. I'm sure it's only a glitch.
Just kidding. You use the strength that is more suitable for your needs. There's also a triple strength one, but I did not bother with it. The black aspect refers to the use of black particles within the glass. Compared to regular mist filters, black mist filters promise the same kind of halation in the highlights, while preserving more contrast in the shadows and blacks. The Tiffens are pretty expensive, coming in at about 90 to 120 euros.
I'd buy that for $1.
Here is about 1 minute of samples showcasing what a mist filter can do. Feel free to fast forward or skip to the next channel if it's not of interest. The effect is definitely not going to be to everybody's taste. And even if you like it, it can be either too little or too much for you, so you need to figure out what strength rocks your boat. For me, as a rule, if a shot would look nice with some glow, but the camera as is does not deliver, then a mist filter is probably in order. I've seen photographers for which a mist filter never leaves their lens, since they like glow and overall lower contrast aesthetic. Obviously, it looks nice in direct sunlight and at night with street lamps, but it can also do wonders for golden hour reflections and even in overcast situations, give a nice halo to backlit subjects. Some results will be artistic as opposed to realistic, so you need to be conscious about the look you're going for. Let's take a look at what an image with a front-lit subject looks like as we apply increasingly stronger mist filters. For the lulz, we'll even try one with all of them stacked together, making a 7.75 strength or something.
Stay out of trouble.
The pics are shot with a Lumix S9 and a Lumix 28-200 zoom lens. First, the image with no filter. As we apply the 1/4, we can already see a bit of a glow in the highlights and the shadows becoming less dark. With the half, the effect intensifies further, and even more so with the full strength one. A strength of 2 takes it up another notch, making it look as if there's actual light mist out there, while at 4, or even more so if you stack them all together, it looks as if your pics are basically set in the Mist movie. Note that, personally, I cannot see the blacks being very well preserved despite the Black Pro Mist naming. Interestingly, sharpness is not totally destroyed, even at level 4, but I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a real-world scenario where you'd need higher than 1, unless you need to simulate a misty bathroom or something. With a light source in or just outside the frame, things can get ridiculous pretty quick. Quarter or half are kinda okay for a low contrast, bathed in sunlight effect. Up to 1 or 2 strength, you can get away with framing it as a dreamy look. At 4, the subject is all but vanished. With all stacked, the subject is unrecognizable and the camera can't even autofocus anymore. Lol. Overall, backlit situations is where mist or diffusion filters really show their character, but moderation needs to be exercised in order not to end up with a totally washed out result. You might also want to reintroduce some contrast in post. Note that compared to front-lit images, it will be much harder, if not totally impossible, to recover details impacted by the filter, because they may be diffused to oblivion. Mist filters are really desirable for introducing blooming at night, especially from street light poles. A modern, well-corrected lens without a diffusion filter doesn't give a very satisfying look. Since there are many point light sources at night, one needs to be careful to not end up with an image totally dominated by halos, though. For this test, I used the Fuji GFX 100S2 and the Fuji 55mm f1.7, mainly because I could not be bothered to change the lens on the S9. Without a filter, we can see that the glow from the candle is rather minimal and the bokeh ball from the street light in the background is very disc-like without much diffusion. As we step up to 1/4, the candle light doubles and the street light gets a definitive halo. Obviously, you cannot make out the candle flame anymore, but that's the trade-off. As we go through the range from half to 4, we progressively gain in glow and lose in definition as is expected. When stacking them all together, it's quite silly really. You can't even make out the edge of the balcony anymore. Overall, as with the daytime cases, I'd say less is more, and a quarter or half would suffice for most use cases. I'd argue that the human eye, or at least mine, behaves like a 1/8 to a quarter diffusion filter anyway. You might experience more or less, depending on the level of astigmatism. As an aside, one of my favorite nighttime subjects when using a mist filter is gas stations. There's just something about them. Here we go again with the tier lists.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Anyway, the 1/4 strength is the bee's knees. You cannot go wrong by having one in your collection. The half is respectable, but objectively it will be a bit too much and you won't end up using it. Same for the 1 strength. The 2, you're probably not gonna need it. And let's face it, the 4 is kinda terrible, unless you're planning to shoot a Silent Hill movie. While at first the choice was between Tiffen Pro Mist filters and Moment Cinnabloom, nowadays we're spoiled for choice with everyone and their dog making diffusion filters. That includes Polar Pro, either simple mist filters or combined with a circular polarizer in their Short Stash Everyday series, KNF, Freewell, Nisi, DJI, Case, and more. You can get them even for mini drones like the DJI Neo and portable gimbals like the Pocket 3. Ricoh has gone as far as releasing a camera with a built-in mist filter, or HDF, highlight diffusion filter, as they call it, that can be toggled on or off. Options are available for any budget, but of course your mileage may vary. One thing's for sure, if you feel your pics or footage looks kind of bland and lacking in glow, a mist filter might be just the right accessory for you. Thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and click the bell button. Also, if you're into film simulations, check out my previous video.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.